welcome to our pre-meditation talk. And we are going to be discussing the topic of spiritual starvation, spiritual fulfillment as an individual and as a society. Both people and individuals can be fulfilled. And the two reflect back and forth with each other. So a society is as fulfilled as its people are, and the people are as fulfilled as the society is. And actually, in the good old days of kings and queens, you could tell the health of the society by the health of the king or queen. And I don't mean just their physical health, but how happy a person are they? And if the society wasn't doing well, if there were droughts and famines and things like that, and if the king didn't look like he cared, um, they would get rid of him. The king is dead, off with his head, and then long live the king, long live the next one, and hope you understand what your job is now. And so the this notion of uh, the fulfillment of a society being tied to the fulfillment of its leaders, that the fulfillment of a person being tied to the fulfillment of a society is something that we should be paying attention to nowadays, because we see that our society, in fact, our entire earth, is at a nexus point, is at a turmoil point, and that we need to be thinking about not, I think we're missing the point when we're talking about the number of carbon particulates per billion in the atmosphere. That's not the point. The point is, why are we making the atmosphere unhappy? Why are we making our oceans unhappy? Why are we producing so much garbage and then trying to find places to put it? Um, um, what does life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness even mean? How are you pursuing happiness? What are you doing? Um, um, an image came to me. I watch a variety of movies, and some of them are ones I would not recommend to you. And one of the ones I would not recommend to you is Sin City. Um, Very well done movie, really, really, really violent. And one of the violent characters had just been beaten to a pulp, put through everything, was covered with cuts and bruises and bandages. And somebody says, "Well, how are you doing?" He says, "I'm having a ball." And he's having the ball because he's got this bottle of pills that never specifies what the pills are. And whenever he stops having a ball, he just swallows a whole bunch of those pills and he's back to having a ball again. And so that in our society takes the place of happiness. It all just depends on what pills you can ingest, what you objects you can smoke, what kind of how you can um, medicate yourself. That is not what we're supposed to be about on this planet. There, we don't talk about that's not what we're supposed to be on this planet, because there are too many people making money from those pills. And I don't mean making a little bit of money, I'm making billions and billions on this pill. So we don't want you to wake up. We don't want you to understand what it is that you are supposed to be doing. So a lot of times, people talk about I'm a spiritual person or I'm on a spiritual path. And what they mean by that is um, I read some books, I go to the shop and buy some crystals, and I go to yoga. I am I have this um, lifestyle, a largely materialist lifestyle. I buy all this stuff, and that makes me spiritual. So I want to chat with you today. Put my butterfly over here. I want to talk to you today about uh, what does spiritual even mean? Um, how do we live as spiritual people? Um, what is our um, what is the what's the meaning of our um, uh, not existence? Well, maybe the meaning of our existence that might fit. Um, and let's look at a couple of folks who may need no introduction. Um, the Dalai Lama said, a revolution is called for, certainly. He's talking about our times today, but not a political, an economic, or even a technical revolution. We have had enough experience of these during the past century to know that a purely external approach will not suffice. What I propose is a spiritual revolution. But what is spirituality? Spirituality I take to be concerned with those qualities of the human spirit, such as love and compassion, patience, tolerance, forgiveness, contentment, a sense of responsibility, a sense of harmony, which bring happiness to both self and others. The spiritual practice involves, on the one hand, acting out of concern for others' well-being. On the other, it entails transforming ourselves so that we become more readily disposed to do so. To speak of spiritual practice in any terms other than these is meaningless. Okay, so he's saying that spiritual practice on this hand is acting out of concern for others. And then that's out here. And then on the other hand, in your court, it's making yourself more readily disposed to do this, to help others. So these two things make up your spiritual practice. My call for a spiritual revolution is thus not a call for a religious revolution, nor is it a reference to a way of life that is somehow otherworldly. Rather, it is a call for a radical reorientation away from our habitual preoccupation with self. That's my emphasis, because we are completely oriented toward ourselves. What we're doing with the catalyst meditation is very gently, I hope it's gently, I hope it's not too abrupt for you, but very gently moving ourselves away from a preoccupation with our individual selves, moving us away from a preoccupation with ourselves as human beings, and moving ourselves into the center as a part of, as an integral part of life. Now, that's pretty radical. Um, I got another person lined up here to talk to us about what we should be doing. Um, I love this image of Jesus of Nazareth. Every other image, he is like very somber and you know looks like he needs an enema, or I am I don't know if I would follow that guy. Also, doesn't look in the slightest bit Palestinian. Um, but he says, so in everything, do to others what you would have them do to you, for this sums up the law and the prophets. And that what he means by sums up the law and the prophets is that's it. There isn't anything else. Okay. Um, you've heard that it was said, love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I tell you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you, that you may be children of your Father in heaven. He also said, love your enemies, do good to those who hate you, bless those who curse you, pray for those who mistreat you. If someone slaps you on one cheek, turn to them the other also. If someone takes your coat, do not withhold your shirt from them. Do to others as you would have them do to you. Okay. So we've known this stuff for a long, long time. We know it, we read it, we recite it, we talk about it on Sundays, and then we forget about it because we practice something radically different from that. And that is me first and screw you. Um, Sometimes when we try to be enlightened, we just say the me first part. We don't put the screw you part in there. That shows up from our actions, where we put ourselves above all other living beings. We put ourselves over other human beings and go on with a way of looking at the world that is not healthy. So if these things constitute what a spiritual life means, then why aren't we doing it? What is the model? Why are we following a different model? So something I talk about I just happen to have my book deck here in some order. So I've got a copy of Creating a World That Works for All. And in Creating a World That Works for All, I think in chapter 3, I talk about a concept that I call the hunger for the sacred. That there is a hunger inside of each one of us. And I have to be careful here. I cracked some ribs this weekend. Had nothing else to do. Was kind of sitting kind of bored. I just cracked some ribs, and I have to watch how many jokes I tell because I'm not supposed to be laughing that hard now. But I'm all taped up and doing well. Um, and so um, in in creating a world that works for all, this concept of the hunger for the sacred, there's something that lies inside of each one of us, and it is a hunger. And for those of us who have tried to fill that hunger with food, we wind up weighing 500 pounds and it doesn't, it's still empty. We try to fill it up with sports. We're exercising all the time and it's still empty. We try to fill it up with sex. We try to fill it up with money. We try to fill it up with all sorts of things, and the hunger is still there. And that's because the hunger is for something that is transcendent. It does not exist on this planet. It's a hunger for the sacred. Uh, and now there are people who try to fill the hunger for the sacred with a hunger for extraterrestrial knowledge. So whether that's they're UFO chasers or whether they are trance channelers, whatever, they still want something external to fill that, even if the external is transcendent, if that makes any sense to you. If it doesn't make sense to you, we'll talk about it in the informal discussion part. But our hunger for the sacred um, is something that is actually good. It's something that actually that we can and should want. It's the quest for the transcendent. And everything the Dalai Lama talked about, everything that Jesus of Nazareth talked about, everything that all of our wisdom teachers talk about are actually fingers pointing toward that thing which can't be pointed to, a quest for the transcendent. But what happens when you um, you know there's something here, and there's no one in your society who tells you how to fill it? Okay. Um, so if when you were born, you open your mouth, start crying, and somebody stuck a breast or a bottle in your mouth, and it's a pretty good deal. And next time you kind of get uncomfortable, you open your mouth again, and somebody sticks a breast or a bottle in it, and it happens again. Now, that satisfies your hunger for food, but it doesn't satisfy your hunger for all of the other things that you should be hungry for, both in the society and in the transcendent. So the the hunger for the sacred is a hunger for something else, something transcendent, and us not knowing how to get it. So not knowing how to be fed leaves you in a constant fear that you will not have enough, that you will not be enough, that something bad's about to happen to you, etc. This gets you into um, what Václav Havel called the consensual lie, the lie that we all consent to. And that lie is everything's fine. How are you doing today? Oh, I'm great. How are you? Well, no, you're not great. There's something missing inside. We don't go through our lives saying, when somebody says, how are you doing today? Something's missing inside. And if you do say that, they say, oh, well, you need some mental health, you need some pills, you need to talk to a counselor. Because the counselor has all your answers, and you should just talk to him or her, and then you'll have all the answers and you'll be fine like the rest of us. That is the consensual lie. So the hunger for the sacred, coupled with hunger for the sacred, is fine. It's led me around the world. It's led me to amazing experiences. We could talk for hours and hours and hours about the experiences of um, the search for the sacred, my search for the sacred. Um, and all the time I'm walking through when I'm at the Great Pyramid, or I'm at Göbekli Tepe, or I'm at lots and lots of sites in England and in India and everywhere else. I know it's not in that site. When I show up, I know the sacred is not there. That's an indicator of it. That's an indicator of it. And I'm looking at that sacred somewhere around here. So hunger for the sacred, not knowing how to be fed, leads to what I'm calling spiritual starvation. it's a weird kind of starvation because you don't look emaciated like someone experiencing food starvation. You don't um, there's no way to look at a person and tell whether or not that person is um, fed or whether that person is not. Um, so Hunger for the Sacred has some particular symptoms to it. And I talk about this some in the book, but right here, the hunger for the symptoms for the spirit for spiritual starvation, um, anger and violence. And when you see people who are perpetually angry and they're not particularly articulate about what they're angry about, you can't tell what they're angry about. They're just angry. Escapist behavior. I want to be away from this. I want this thing to cease. But if I can't articulate what this thing is, yeah, what do I do? Well, I'm just angry at everyone in the world perpetually. Denial and numbing. I don't see it. I don't want to interact with it. It's not real. That's not real. Um, I'm going to turn up the volume on my 500 channel television so that I will not have the experience of the starvation that's happening, not on that screen. It is on the screen, but not on that screen, but the starvation happening in my heart. And control and manipulation. If I am experiencing this hunger, I'm going to stop experiencing it. I'm going to control my reality. I'm going to um, surround myself with security and guns. I'm going to do all the things that I can do to keep from being, to keep from feeling, to keep from knowing that there's something, that there's a path and I'm not on it. So, the question is whether I'm going to do this last part, and the answer is, since I just said that, I guess I'm going to do it. And this, I'm just going to read real quickly to you here. Um, so a spiritually starved person, um, they get angry and they hate easily. They're destructive to themselves, they're destructive to others, and destructive to the society. They act like they are powerless. They have low self-esteem and they have a low esteem for all others. And these two things are related. They are armored, stiff, and unbending. They have a low life force. They don't seem to have a lot of life going through them. Unbalanced and uncentered. They act like they're empty, like they're a shell. And what you see on the outside is all there is to be seen. Profoundly unhappy, even when they're smiling, you can tell the smile doesn't go any further than their mouths. They have a limited experience of life, and they're judgmental and critical of themselves, of others, and of society. If that's what the spiritually starved person looks like, and they're afraid all the time. What does a spiritually fulfilled person look like? They radiate love and compassion. They're creative, flexible, and adaptable. They radiate power. They radiate divine energy. They're grounded and centered. They act like they are satisfied and fulfilled. They are profoundly happy, even if they're not smiling and grinning all the time. They radiate a happiness and a fulfillment to others. They're not ruled by their needs and desires. They see that life is abundant and has been abundant with them. They have a deep experience of an appreciation for life. They're empowered and they live beyond their fears. Okay, folks, that's it uh, for talking about um, spiritual starvation, spiritual fulfillment. I hope you can take all of that and take it over into our societal realm. We here on this call are creating the 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 framework for the spiritual society, for a spiritually fulfilled society. And each one of us, as the butterfly is taking shape, we're shaping it. And we're shaping it. Oh, and here comes the onslaught. And therefore, I'm gonna wrap up that note here on wrap all on that note. We've got a bunch of people trying to get in for the meditation. And welcome to our weekly Catalyst meditation. Welcoming those who are on the call with us today. Welcoming those who may be following on the outline. Welcoming those who have been with us in the past but can't make it today. And welcoming a few people who are new to the call. And a special welcome for you coming on today. First things we do is center ourselves with our own body and the 10 trillion beings inside your body. You are one. And then centering yourself with the trillions and trillions of other beings who are near you, far from you, but somewhere on this planet. We are one. And we get to think about that. The way that we do that is with a 3-minute meditation using a breathing app so that we will be synchronizing our breathing. And then for another 2 or 3 minutes, we'll be doing a silent non-app breathing to get all that energy centered in you. Let's go ahead and get started with the breathing app. So breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in. And we'll continue our centering meditation for another couple minutes. And I invite you back to our mutual center. You can, if you wish, keep your eyes closed. We're going to start with our setting our intentions. As the imaginal cells within a chrysalis come together to form the butterfly out of the disintegrated caterpillar cells, we come together to form a gateway for the meta-consciousness of the mind of Gaia, the mind of Mother Earth. We act to ourselves personally, and we act as aspects and agents of Mother Earth. Holonic consciousness is a fundamental aspect of the universe. Every atom in the universe holds consciousness. It is always with us. We are acknowledging that now because many humans have forgotten and many humans have been in denial. We act to reawaken our connection to Gaia for the benefit of all living things. And we acknowledge our connection to all beings. This connection includes all humans, including those who have gone before and those who are to come. All beings who thrive on and in the water. All beings who thrive on and in the air. All beings who thrive on and in the earth. all beings who thrive on and in our bodies, all beings that thrive on light, the beings of the plant realms, all meta beings, including the earth as a living meta being, air as a living meta being, fire as a living meta being, water as a living meta being, all colony beings, meta beings that are collections of solo beings, and that includes murmurations, colonies, schools, hives, pods, flocks, herds, migrations, swarms, and other forms of meta beings, and all other forms of consciousness, known and unknown to us. Having acknowledged our connection to all beings, we now blend all of our energies. May all who are part of Mother Earth be connected to and in perfect health, harmony, and balance with each other and with Gaia for the common good. We are in perfect physical health, harmony, and balance. We are in perfect emotional health, harmony, and balance. We are in perfect relational health, harmony, and balance. We are in perfect mental health, harmony, and balance. We are in perfect spiritual health, harmony, and balance. We are in perfect holonic health, harmony, and balance. We are in perfect spatial and temporal health, harmony, and balance. We are in the perfect place, at the perfect time, in the perfect conditions, and with the perfect beings. We now set our declarations. We declare that Gaia, Mother Earth, is the ultimate governing principle, the way that humans govern their behavior on this planet, replacing all other forms of human governance. This is the way our behavior aligns with the will of the earth. We declare that humans are colony beings. We deepen and expand our human murmurations. We declare that Gaia is providing all necessary resources to achieve the vision of a world that works for all living beings. We declare that we are creating a political and economic system where all beings participate in it, all beings are in relationship with it, all beings own it, all beings benefit from it, and all beings govern it for the common good. So we're now going to meditate within this energy, within this holonic energy, within the energy of Mother Earth. We'll be listening for messages. We'll be making any personal requests that we may have. And we'll be deepening and expanding our human experience of our human murmurations. And we'll do so for approximately the next 8 minutes, starting now. Hey, if we can come back to our common center, we're going to end our catalyst meditation with our inclusivity mantra. You can repeat after me or remain silent as I repeat this. May I be well. May I be secure. May I be happy. May you be well. May you be secure. May you be happy. May we be well. May we be secure. May we be happy. And may all beings be well. May all beings be secure. May all beings be happy. And so it is, and so it shall be. Thank you for joining me on this Catalyst meditation for this week. While waiting for someone to either, and by now you know the drill, hit your digital hand down in your button row, wave your meat hand around, or unmute yourself, and I will see you doing that. And say something like, "How dare you unmute yourself?" And I see Double G Greg. No, I don't see Double G Greg. I'm going to see Double G Greg soon, I hope. But I see he's unmuted himself from his non-location. Oh, now he has a location too. So Greg, what's up?
Well, just following on yesterday's energy, the energy protected us well with all of the very violent weather that moved through this area, but there were minor, major difficulties. Uh, the the weather moved around us and away from the populated areas and more out to just add a little more water to the farm area that will grow more good food for us to eat, complete cycle and circle. So thank you for your energy from the group yesterday. It worked very well. We are looking at more of this week and next week, but we'll take each one and turn it into the most positive thing we can.
This is a very important point, and for those of you who are weekly, for those of you who are daily, yay, we're doing it. For those of you who are weekly, we have been working on the development of holonic consciousness as a form of consciousness that is has different properties than our usual consciousness that we think is locked somewhere in our heads. And that that consciousness has various kinds of powers to it. And we have been experiencing sometimes very I should say very unpleasantly, but not happily experiencing things that are happening outside of the realm of our normal three-dimensional consciousness. And that it's happening to enough of us, and it's happening frequently enough that we know that there's something there. And we are now at the phase of I'm running out of words here. Trying to facilitate those things happening on purpose. Okay. You experience a whole bunch of disappearances, and then the objects would reappear in very interesting configurations. But we through our we, we meaning me appointed Greg as our Minister of Weather, and his job is to do what this thing that nobody can do. His job is to do that and to do that with weather, and we will be supporting him in doing that. And so yesterday he was saying um, all hell and damnation is heading right toward us. What's the name of the route that you're on that the weather comes up?
I-44,
I-44. So we
the
had
old Route 66.
oh, okay. Um, so um so now it's really important though if we recognize all beings and we recognize air as a living being. And we're recognizing that therefore air in its configurations as clouds, as tornadoes, as hurricanes, and all this other stuff, that we're not just saying, I want you all to drop dead right now because it's inconvenient for me. That's the attitude that's pure breaker attitude. And if you don't know what a breaker is, um, buy the book. Oh, you got to go. Okay, bye. Some of us have to work. Um, so, um, um, so how do you say, I recognize you as a living being. I recognize that you are powerful and in this instance, much more powerful than me. I recognize that you have an equal right to exist. I also will be asking you, don't blow over my house. Don't blow over any of the houses that I know about. If you can channel yourself around and not through the center of town, if you can modulate your size a bit, okay, if we can work with these beings and not, um, on the one hand, say, I want everybody to drop dead except for me and my friends. Which is basically our attitude toward the entire world. Um, on the other hand, oh, you're so powerful, you're so strong, we're so weak. I apologize. Yeah, yeah, kind of lay on your back and kick your legs up. That's not the thing either. We need to have a working partnership. And we don't know how to do that. We don't know how to do that. We are finding out how to do that. We're asking our elder humans how to do that. And those are the people in the book. I'm sorry, I gotta wave the book around. In the book, I talk about the keepers, the indigenous people who have been working with the earth for the last 20, 30, 40,000 years or so. So they have some experience and they can help us do this. Um, and the elders of other beings, the elders of, the other nations, the whale nation, the dolphin nation, the elephant nation, etc. And all of them can help us if we ask for the help, with respect, and then actually do what they suggest, and not skip over it because it's inconvenient or it might cost us money. So, so that provides a context for Greg's weather report, which and well, there's a longer story to this, and we'll tell the longer story at another point in time. But number one, thank you, Greg, and just let us know, and we're supposed to step up our game, step up our support game for you, as you're steering some things around. Our next challenge is going to be steering some things around where you are not. Okay. How to do that? Let's think about it. Okay, any other questions, comments, thoughts, opinions? Um, not quite musings. I'm not seeing any hands. I'm not seeing hands waving around. This could be a very short, informal discussion. Um, I may go a little bit deeper into, oh, in terms of what we were talking about earlier, in terms of the spiritually fulfilled um, and spiritual starvation and um, how deeply invested we are in spiritual starvation. Um, if the underpinnings of of our existing breaker society is if the foundation of it is spiritual starvation, and we recover from spiritual starvation, what happens to the foundations of that society? It's real simple. It goes down the tubes. And everything goes down the tubes. All created things go down the tubes. They may do it in a day or two, like a fruit fly. They may do it in 80 to 100 years, like a human. They may do it in 5,000 years, like a redwood tree. They may do it in such a long period of time that we can't measure it. Like, I forget the name of the shark that doesn't seem to have an age limit. Um, but it's going to die. Okay, so everything that's born will die. And the same thing goes for societies that may last what the USSR lasted 80 years, not too long. We've been going for 300 years and about to crash into the wall hard. We're driving a car that does not have a brake pedal. It has no steering mechanisms. Um, and Chinese society's been around for about 6,000 years. Our true elders, the Aboriginal people of Australia, have been in continuous society for 40,000 years at least. We're trying to figure out how to measure how far back they go. There are a couple of other societies that on our planet that also go back in those kinds of time frames. But if we know, regardless, everything that's born will die, and therefore, and I think we all come back. I'm planning my return. Um, that's all I'm doing right now is I want to live in a really nice society, so I'm putting all the pieces together right now. Um, so so our job is to move with these flows in such a way that each one reinforces the other. Each one gets us closer to um, how we live on the planet. Each one gets us strengthens the others, the ones we pay attention to. And our job is to learn how to take our attention from here to here to here to here, to not be like a kitten following any moving target, no, pouncing on any moving target, to not to say it's not in my best interest if I pay attention over here. It's in the best intention of all of us if I pay attention over here. So that becomes a real challenge for us, and we will help each other to meet that challenge together. And I think we'll do, well, number one, we are doing a great job. Number two, we are going to be spreading the word so that others can do that great job. I have an apology to make to everyone who asked for the donation button to be on the flyer. If you looked on the flyer, the reminder for our for this the Catalyst meditation, you didn't see a donation button, and that's because I forgot. And that's because I am the director and the producer and the stage manager and everything else. And I'm going to put it in our chat box right now. I'm going to try to anyway. And there it goes. Um, I really wish I could get Fireflies to stop dropping these completely useless. This is pure bloatware. They didn't used to do this. But I also now see that Joanna's saying goodbye. Liza said goodbye. Maybe it's time for all God's children to say goodbye. I don't know. This will be the last call for us to say something. If you've got something to say, I'm looking over at all the microphones are off. All the hands are down. Angie just raised her hand. So there, if we will hear from Angie.
Okay. Just a few short comments, and sometimes I have to figure out how to put something in words before I can say them, So I guess I just want to add to what was happening with Greg, that he expressed to us that a big storm was coming his way yesterday, and that how he's been dealing with that, is to kind of try to ask that it goes, please go over there. It's kind of basically away from people, away from him, and away from people. And I think we're kind of playing with that energy and figuring out how can we participate with it. Can we, and how to do that, and what kind of words does that entail? And this is kind of an ongoing process that we've all kind of been part of. And the same thing with when one of us has a disappearance, to kind of, how can we support each other when unusual occurrences happen, I think is kind of what we're in process with, So, and so the guidance I received was that the more we can work together with that, it's the better. The more to have a verbal participation, I had some keys disappear, so I just kept saying verbally each day whenever I could thought about it, please return my keys, And after 3 or 4 days, they did return. Now there's a 3D explanation and there's a 4D explanation, and they're both probably equally real, I would say at this point. But it was clear to me that the more we can work together with this as a group, that we kind of energetically support whatever the person's process is. Family issues come up sometimes. It kind of varies person to person. The Wi-Fi issues have been off and on, off and on. So
I got Wi-Fi today. I've got
hey,
Wi-Fi.
hey. And I'll just share that yesterday, every time I thought about it, I would say, please return Sharif's Wi-Fi. So, it's kind of like, is there a causal direct link? That's kind of what we're playing with. And several of us are finding that there is and there can be. It's not a linear process. It's kind of a evolving process, I guess, is the best way to put that. But the guidance I got was to just the more we could consciously work together on these, when someone has an issue, the better. And it didn't have to be at the same time. It didn't have to be particular words, but that the energetic support together as a group actually really did would help the situation resolve or move, I guess, is the best way to put that. So it's kind of a plaything in the sense of, we're finding words to describe what we're experiencing with this, and that sometimes takes a while. And when you're dealing with an other dimensional interaction with our three-dimensional minds, it's sort of like there's a little gap between what we see and then how to understand that. And I guess the best thing I can say about that is that as we experience the experiences and it evolves, that our minds begin to understand it, it can track the process, follow the breadcrumbs, is the best way I can say that. And then the mind kind of goes, oh, okay, I think I see a pattern. Okay, I can trace the pattern. And then our minds can understand it better. And then it's easier to get words for it. And I hope this is making sense. But I think we're all sort of involved in this because we're all doing the meditation together, that we're all involved in this at one level or another. And kind of the more we can see it, track it, trace it, follow it, the better we'll be able to work together with it, and the clearer it'll become. So sometimes it's a little murky, but it's kind of like, it's all good. Everyone's intention is clear. Everyone's intention is for the common good. And that is partly what keeps it together and moving, I guess, is the best way I can say that. So
Yes.
are we having fun yet?
No. Well, number one, yeah, I'm having a ball.
Yes. It is
Covered
fun.
with bandages. Yes, I'm having a ball.
Right.
No bottle of pills though.
Right.
I am. Yes. However, I think I have to be very, very careful not to fall into the trap that many of our scientists have fallen into, in that they have constructed a way that they see the world, and they can't see the world outside of their construction. Okay. And they don't accept anybody else's construction or ability to see the world a different way. And we have to remember that list of spiritually fulfilled traits. We've got to remain creative, flexible, and adaptable. Okay. The number of scientists who don't consider Dr. Rupert Sheldrake to be a real scientist, because he studies things like, and the title of one of his books is Dogs That Know When Their Owners Are Coming Home. They can't accept that there's this other straight of reality that they can't measure with their instruments. And therefore, what you're looking for is just wrong. It's not real. Or there's some other explanation for it. So in Sheldrake's book, the common thing, if you have a dog, And if the dog likes you, I don't want to get too psychological here, but if the dog actually likes you, the dog will be waiting for you when you come home. And there's all these excuses why that happens. The dog is habituated to the time you come home. The dog is habituated to the sound of the car. The dog, yeah, the dog knows that if such and such happens and such happens, they can't read a clock, but they should know that you should be home now, that kind of thing. So he actually did some fairly rigorous research around this. I'm sorry, how many of you know about this? And I can not bother talking about it. Okay, one, two, I'll keep talking. Um, so he conducted experiments with people who had flexible schedules. He put a camera on the sofa or wherever the dog usually is when they're at home by themselves. And then he put a camera on the front door where the dog would sit waiting for them to come home. And he would then call the person up at their job and they would say, right now, I want you to intend to go home and go home. And when they hang up the phone, 10 miles away, the dog gets up off the sofa and goes and waits at the door. Okay. Then they choose a time the person would not go home. So if the person usually goes home at 5 o'clock, at 2 o'clock, they get the call and they say, right now, we want you to intend to go home and go home. And the dog gets up off the sofa 10 miles away and goes to the front door. Then he says, he calls a person up and he says, we don't want you to go home right now. What we want you to do is follow a set of instructions to get you to a particular place. And they start instructing the person, turn right here, turn left there, etc. And they drive them right by their own front door. Dog does not get up off the sofa. Okay. So then when they're a mile or so away, they say, okay, now we want you to intend to go home and go home. And as soon as they set the intention, the dog stops playing cards, stops smoking the cigars or whatever the dog does in his free time and goes to the front door. They did the same experiment with cats. Cats don't give a crap whether you come home or not. So they had to do it with something different. So people say that when it's time for the cat to go to the vet, they will it can't find the cat. Cat is disappeared to the point that, and I see cat owners nodding now, to the point that people will make the appointment for the vet at their job so the cat won't overhear them making it from the house. Still can't find the cat. So they asked a different question. They contacted 50 vets in the greater London area and just asked a question: do cat owners miss their appointments at a higher level than any other animal owner? So of the 50 vets, 49 of them said cat owners always miss their appointments. The 50th vet said, we don't even take appointments for cats. He said, if you can find your cat, just bring it in, you know. So, so now, so this shows that there's something going on. But this gets back to the point I'm trying to raise with Angie. The desire to shove those experiences into something that we can understand is so heavy that we can dismiss the experience. This didn't really happen or didn't happen that way, or And these are what I call counterfactuals. I'll create a whole set of counterfactuals to make sure that I'm not straying into territory where I have to be forced to say, I don't know what's going on. One more thing, and I will put this in the goodie box. And someone tried to rename the goodie box, and that is a, I can't even say it with a straight face. That was a time-honored tradition. Okay, but I'll put in the goodie box a link to, I think it's I think it was a PBS special. It's only 5-10 minutes or so. And it's talking about how the Polynesian navigators went from island to island to island across the Pacific Ocean. Um, uh, and they were trying to say that they were following cloud patterns. They were looking at the way the waves moved in the water. They were looking at the stars, and they had all these ways of determining where they were going. And that's how they navigated across literally thousands of miles of ocean and always hit the spot they were aiming for. They always got to the next island. Okay. Now, they did all that without talking to the Polynesian navigators, because the Polynesian navigators would tell you how they got across the ocean. The Polynesian navigators said, we knew where we were going. We wouldn't get in the boat until we knew where we were going. We knew there's an island over there beyond the horizon. We knew exactly how far it was. We only put the food that we needed on the boat to get us to that island over there. We knew where we were going. So when the breaker scientists would go to the Polynesian navigators and they would say, well, were you looking at cloud patterns? They say, yeah, we look at cloud patterns. Okay, they write down in their book, they're looking at cloud patterns. Were you looking at, the wave configurations and the concentric rings that they said, yeah, oh, come to think of it, yeah, we look at that, and they say, okay, looking at wave patterns. They put this list down of the things they were looking at. I say, okay, so now we know how you did that. And they say, no, you don't know, because we knew where we were going. We knew it before we could see it. Okay. Now I can think of, off the top of my head, a dozen different ways that the Polynesian navigators knew. The easiest way for them to know is for them to be in communion with the dolphin nation and say, is there an island over there? And the dolphins would say, yeah, come on and hurry up and get there, because we want to play with your boat as you're heading over that way. But if you don't recognize that these other beings are your equal partners and your friends in the pursuit, all you want to do is study them. You don't want to actually ask them any questions. And that's something that I think we should be trying to do. So I'll put the Polynesian navigators video in the goodie box. It'll be the lowest thing in the goodie box. And I'll try to do that within the next hour or so. Because again, I want to watch it again. It's like, you guys are missing it. And at some point in time, they're going to come to us and say, listen, we're really missing it. Can you help us see what we're missing? And we will say, never, no, we'll sell this for $1 million. I think that we'll be glad to tell them how to do that. as the keepers have been saying to us for longer than I care to think about. And we have not been listening to them for longer than I care to think about. So Mark, you are unmuted now.
Yeah, I was thinking about some of those conversations with Alarian
Mhm.
and other indigenous peoples that I have come in contact with through the years myself. And I have a deep respect for people who have been living the same way for hundreds and thousands of years. And for me, I feel like I need to be very immersed into this greater universe and the cosmos on a consciousness level before I do anything, because I'm trying to really get into an understanding of something that's been around for a long, long time. And when we talked about weather, we had some potentially serious weather come through Grand Rapids here this past weekend on Sunday night. And I have a sense that there's so much going on that I don't comprehend or understand much of any of it. So I would not even think about asking for the weather to miss my neighborhood or my home, because there might be a really good explanation of why it would be coming over my part of the city on a level that I'm not understanding. So my point would be, at least for me, I feel like I have to really immerse myself into evolving consciousness to even have a sense of what is happening out there. And I'm remembering the tsunami that happened in Indonesia that we referenced, I think, a while back too. The indigenous people, as I understand it, because they live in the water and on the water all the time and not on land, they moved up to high ground before the tsunami came, and they had no loss of life because they had a felt sense when they were in the water of changes and things that were warning them. But as far as I know, they didn't try to make it go away or redirect it. And I don't think they even tried to notify people on the mainland. So my point is that I'm having a sense of reverence for the cosmos in such a way that I feel like I have to be into a deep, respectful relationship with it for a long time for me to be able to sense that I could participate at that level, that a indigenous person from Bali would when asking the gods and goddesses to not have the volcano spill over into the village.
Number one. Oh, Janet, see you later. We're going to wrap this up at some point in time. um, the so number one, I think that attitude that you have is a very healthy attitude to start. Okay. I think that if you didn't have that, we'd be having a different conversation right now. Okay. On the one hand. On the other hand, I think that we have to develop that standing on our own authority. This is why on the first thing that we do with our intentions, we say, I'm acting for myself personally. but I am also acting in the world as an aspect and an agent of Gaia. I am an agent of Gaia. When you say that, it opens up your agency. It allows you to think in a larger context. It will modulate your behavior. So rather than saying, I'm not going to do anything, which means you're doing something, that means you're doing something. Saying, I'm not going to act means I will let the actions I see all around me happen without my input. And I don't think that that's what you're here for. I don't think that that's what we're here for. I think that you have to um, be choosing. And you may want to start that small. Yeah, if it's okay for this tornado to go around my house, I'd appreciate that. If it's in the highest good. And don't forget the if part. Um, then you can see the reaction that you get, and that can be that can help educate you as to what your power, authority, and agency is, but it also can help educate the wind. Okay, so without this human connection, we're all just on free float, and you can help to harness this energy by slowly stepping forward on it. And this is something that Angie also was saying, that we need to be doing this together. Okay, so it's not going to be just Greg out there saying, oh, I don't like that guy that lives across the street from me, so let's send a tornado to tear his house down. Greg, if you have any of that in you, then, well, actually, yeah, we do need to talk about it. So, so I think that it's important for us to not be thinking from our individualized consciousness, that we need to open the doors on that consciousness and not go into, I'm not ready, I'm not worthy, I don't have the right tools, I don't have the, and just hang it out there and see what happens. But hang it out there with the rest of us, okay? And this is the part where you, remember I said in our daily sessions, we're going to do a project together. I'm not sure what the project is, but we're not going to wait for something to disappear. We're going to disappear something, okay? But how we do that, what we do, is going to be done in concert with each other. And that will allow us to modulate all of our energy. So we'll see how that goes. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm all with the agency part, I don't feel like I'm disempowered to where I don't evoke something of my own, you know, preferences or things out there. It just when it gets to these larger, more universal and cosmic powers or energies, that just seems like that's a far off thing for me. while I'm trying to do it in concert with, family and neighbors. And even if I said, I don't want this tornado coming into my neighborhood and the radar shows it's coming right at it, and it somehow diverts away, I don't have a sense of how I would know and understand that it actually diverted away because of my agency there. That's the only thing that I'm.
What do you need about that? Do you need an ego burst that says, "Oh, Mark, you're so great. You just moved that tornado." Does it matter?
Well, I think if we're doing cause and effect, for
We're
me,
not. We're not. No, don't even finish the sentence. We're doing belief and manifestation. We're not doing cause and effect. And if your intention was that the tornado not come through that neighborhood, the tornado didn't come through the neighborhood. You say to all the beings that were responsible for that, thank you. And you have no idea whether it was you or anybody else. And you then let that whole ball of wax go. Um, and if you're getting any level of ego satisfaction from it, then you need to rethink all that. The every single indigenous person who's living off of their own actions in the world, they don't call themselves hunters. They don't brag about how big the elk was that they brought back to their village. They don't allow themselves to even think that way. There's this great part in the book In the Spirit of the Earth, where he's talking to walrus hunters, and I don't know which people eat walrus, but they say when you're talking about the walrus, you always have to be respectful. You never talk about hunting them. You never talk about killing them. You ask for a good hunt, but you don't say, I brought back the biggest walrus. And he said, the reason that and he says, it doesn't matter where you are. It doesn't matter with if you're 50 miles away from the hunting grounds, you still don't. He says, because wherever you are, the walrus can hear you. And if you are talking pridefully about the walrus, they simply go away. And when they go away, you starve. And so you've got a reason for not doing that, for not being there doing that. And this is a really good practice for us. Today we had a maximum, I think, of 13 or 14 people on the call. I could say, wow, I'm doing a really good job here. We had 14 people on the call. Or I could say, we only had 14 people. I want to have more, And either direction is taking me out of being centered in holonic consciousness as an integral part of holonic consciousness. So I would do that. We're coming up on the top of the hour now, so we need to. I'm going to ask if there are any other questions or comments or thoughts around any of this stuff. I'm sorry, last point with Mark is a point for everyone else, and that is this is an ongoing conversation. This is not something that's going to be wrapped up in 5 minutes and then I write a new book on it, and then we kind of go from there. We are, and I've said this in the daily meditations a few times, we are like Benjamin Franklin with the kite and the key. We are trying to make consciousness useful, not useful to me, not useful for making money, but useful in terms of the awakening of our entire planet, the awakening of the planet. And this is going to be very, very interesting. There have been people who have been talking about it for a long time, and it's going to really surprise them. That it's like when this wakes up, it's going to really wake up, and you may not like it. People say Jesus is coming soon. Yeah, Jesus is coming soon, and you may not like that, So we need to be cognizant at that. I am going to say this very slowly, waiting for other hands to go up, but I'm not seeing any. Welcome to the people who, uh-oh, there's the hand. There's the mic.
Just a quick thought for this whole discussion. In my other practice, we just pray for protection, and then we accept what happens. If we get protected, we say thank you, thank you, thank you. And then if we don't get protection, we say thank you for the cleansing. So that's how it's handled in my other spiritual practice. It's kind of very simple. It kind of takes the discussion out of it, and interesting things happen. So I'll just throw that in the mix, so.
Okay, so thrown in the mix. We are maybe in a slightly different position. And this is something, again, for some reason, I keep referring back to this one book, Creating a World That Works for All. But this is something that I'm kind of conscious of right now. And that is, we have been breakers. We have been the consciousness of breakers, the consciousness of living on top of the earth. And the entire earth is subject to our whims. That's how we've been raised. Now, obviously, all we have to do is turn around and become keepers, living with the earth, and and then we're done. But I don't think that that's our future. Becoming keepers is not, I think we are going somewhere else. And that somewhere else is what I call the menders, the folks who fix the problems. We're the folks who are going to change what has been happening on the planet for the last few thousand years. We've caused damage to each other. We've caused damage to ourselves. We've caused damage to the earth. And this has been going on for hundreds and hundreds of years, and is going on right now today. We've got to stop that. We've got to go in a completely different direction. So we have an agenda of stopping this car from going over the cliff. I'm sorry, that's not a good metaphor. We've got to jump out of this car, make a new car, and go in another direction. And do all that really, really quickly. So I think that I'm saying this because, Andy, I agree with you. I think that whatever we do, we should be asking for protection and guidance. We also need to be acting in the world. I mean, and acting meaning My intention is to change this world. My intention is to see a different world. And we are the ones who can make that happen. I'm gonna, this is the sound of me biting my tongue. I've got more to say about that, but we've got other weeks that we can be talking about this. I I'll say the donation button is in the chat box. You should push it before I say goodbye, because this will mean your chat box will say goodbye. Number two, if you are interested in doing the daily meditations, you should join us. If you have the outline, you've already got the link. If you want to send me a note saying I'm going to be starting to do the daily meditations, or I can do them on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, like if you've got strictures around that, we should talk about it. But you're more than welcome to that. That's me saying for the longest time goodbye. So let's see if I can say this longer. Goodbye, fare thee well. I look forward to seeing you next week, if not earlier. Blessings. Bye.